Well, I'm out here nice and early this morning, and basically the target species today is bass. It's very early November, and the autumn months, September, October, November, December, are great times for bass fishing in Cornwall. From my experience, there's generally more bass around. So it's a very calm day, but I'm drifting along here, along the coastline, and the moment in about 20 feet of water. But what I'm drifting over is what is known as a bank, a shallow bank. And that bank is a mixture of weed, there's clean ground, and there's rocky ground and weedy ground. And as I'm drifting along, what I'm doing is jigging a soft plastic. This is a lure I featured before in a previous bass fishing video. Basically, it's just a 6-inch Slug-Go which has been mounted on a 16-gram Savage Sandeel weedless jig head. And the idea is that it imitates a Sandeel, and it does that really well. If we have a look at it in the water there, you can see that just by a little bit of movement, it really looks like a Sandeel, and it's a great lure. So what I'm doing as I drift along here, it's a bit of a slow drift, is basically casting it out. I'm in around about 20 feet of water at the moment. Is casting it out and actually letting it sink right down to the bottom. And often with the bass, they'll actually take it on the drop. And then once it hits the bottom, all I'm doing is just slowly reeling it back. And as I slowly turn the handle of the reel, just giving it little twitches, sometimes little double twitches, just to get that soft plastic working, and then sometimes just let it sink, because like I said, often if there's bass around, they'll take it on the drop. A few twitches just to put a bit of life on it, just mixing up the retrieve, and then let it sink, and hopefully I'll pick up a bass. I've got an order from her indoors to get a bass of a reasonable size for Christmas. So that's one of the reasons that I'm out here. Apart from that, it's a fantastic morning. A little bit calm really, so not really getting much of a drift. But we'll give it a go. I'm just going to have two sessions today. I'm fishing just around the high water mark at the moment, so I'm going to have a short couple of hours, half an hour before high and an hour after. It's not usually the time that I get them, but I have got them in the past. And then go off and fish for something else, and then come back again around about an hour before low water and give it another go, either by using this lure or trolling a plug. So it's a bit of a quest today. I call this a bass quest for a Christmas bass, and see if we can pick one up. Well, we're in. It didn't take long. I'm not sure whether it is a bass yet. It could. It's banging well. If it is, it could be a... Yeah, it's a bass. I don't think it's going to be big enough. Whee! Oh, I don't know. We'll measure it. Well, that didn't take very long. I can't emphasise how much, if you can get a good soft plastic that imitates a Sandeel well, there's plenty on the market. They are great lures to work, particularly when you want to work the depths. You're fishing in, say, 20-25 foot of water, and therefore you can work right from the bottom up to the top. So yeah, great start. So I don't think this is going to be big enough, to be honest with you, but we'll see. Well, it was actually much bigger than I thought. This bass measures 45 centimetres, so that's good. As many of you probably know now, we've had an increase in the size limit this year from 1st of September 2015. The bass limit, legal size limit, has been increased from 37.5 to 42 centimetres, which is absolutely fantastic. But this one's 45. So that's great. So we'll get the lure out again and see if we can pick up another one. Another rule that's come in to force from 1st of September is a 3 bass limit. So that's 3 bass per rod per day over the legal size limit, and that's to be honest, that's also a good thing. If you go out and you catch 3 bass over the legal size limit, or over 45 centimeters, you've done really well. So once again, that's the lure. I found this lure very successful. You can't buy this lure like this. You have to buy the 6-inch Slug-Gos separately, which unfortunately are getting a little bit difficult to get now, but you can get them in the UK, and then just popping it on a jig head. It could be weedless or non-weedless. I've got weedless because I'm fishing over rough ground, but there's others on the market. There's I think there's one called the Fish Crazy Sandeel that really imitates a sandeel well. But the idea is to try and get the lure, the soft plastic, to imitate the bait fish, the prey fish, as best you can, and which this does. And once again, we'll have a look at the action. So all I do really is either let it drop like that, or just give it little twitches to get that tail working. And it looks to me that is as good as fishing a live sandeel, because it's so realistic. And as you've seen there, I've only been fishing a short while. Okay, I've come at the right time of day, but it really does fool the bass to thinking that it's a real sandeel. Well, we're in again. I don't know whether this... No, it could... Oh, yeah, it's come alive now. Yeah, it's definitely come alive now. This one at first was running towards me, and couldn't feel whether it was a bass or not. But I mean, it could be a pollock, but it does appear to be another bass. This one's definitely too small. Now, I've just measured this one. This one measures 40 centimeters, so this one's a couple of centimeters under the legal limit. So obviously we're going to get this one back. And away it goes. Well, that's bass number 2, so they're here today, and that's fantastic. This is great fun. Well, we're in again. Once again, it's running towards me, and now it's seen the kayak. It's come alive. This feels like a reasonable fish. Yeah, it is. This one's a decent one. You can normally tell when they stay quite deep. When you get a better fish, it's not ready yet. Unfortunately, it seems to be well hooked. Oh, I got it. Oh, another nice bass there. This one's a bit bigger. This one measures 48 centimeters. So that's great. And as I said earlier, I find that the autumn period is really a great time. The autumn early winter period is really a great time for bass fishing in Cornwall. And there was a time when I only used to shore fish that I wouldn't even bother to start bass fishing until September, because there just seems to be more around. I know it's different in different parts of the country, but from my records that the autumn and early winter up to the end of December are fantastic times. So we carry on and see if we can pick up another one. They certainly seem to be around this morning. Well, would you believe it, very next cast and I'm into another bass. Can't tell you how good these soft plastics are that imitate Sandeels so well. But, yeah, once again, this one's staying reasonably deep, so it feels, yeah, it feels like it's a reasonable bass again. Whee! It is a decent one. When I say decent, I don't mean huge. But a nice one. Well, that's the best one so far. This one measures 52 centimetres. You can see they're nicely lip hooked. Just to go over this method again, like I said, I'm drifting over mixed ground in about 20 feet of water at the moment, 21 feet. So the method is I cast this soft plastic out as I'm drifting along, and then I let it sink down to the bottom, or almost to the bottom, and then the retrieve, hopefully the camera will pick this up, the retrieve is slow turn of the reel, but little twitches, don't have to be severe with it, only needs using the braided line which is direct to the lure, and I've got a short piece of 15-pound fluorocarbon, about 3 feet of fluorocarbon. So it only takes little twitches to get that lure to work, and there you go, bang, we're in. We're in again. Let's come. And yeah, it feels it's a decent one again. But this not so big this time, but this one's going back anyway. I mean, it's over the legal size limit, but this one's going back. I've had my 3 bass limit now, and that's fine, so anything I catch from now on has got to go back, no matter how big it is. Before we put it back, we'll have a quick look at it. You can see why they're so sought after by anglers, apart from and of course commercially, apart from because of course they're such a great eating fish, but it's the look of them. They are so fantastic. Well, those fins there look like the freshwater perch, and beautiful silver bar there, and such an aggressive fish, ferocious fish, huge great mouths they got on them, and when you're bait fishing for them, they're surprising the size of bait they would take. But anyway, we'll get this one back. And away it goes. Always good to see the bass that you are going to put back go back well. Alright, we'll carry on. So now I'm not fishing for the table anymore, I'm going to be just fishing for the sport. So as I said, anything I catch from now on is going to be returned. I'm just paddling back up tide, upwind to set up the next drift. The breeze has picked up a little bit now, so drifting a little bit faster, so I'm probably going to pop the drift chute out to slow me down. But just going to have this one last drift. I've only had those bass were caught on the first drift. I'm just going to have one more drift and then go off and fish for something else. And apart from that, I want to catch other fish today. But the other thing I find about bass fishing is there's usually just little short sessions of action. I mean, others may have found different, but in all the years that I've fished for them, I have never ever caught bass for the whole of the tide. It's almost like there's little periods of activity, and if you don't get one in that period, you've lost your chance and you might as well pack up and go home. And so what I like to do these days when I go bass fishing is only target them for a short period. So I like to go at times of the tide where I get them, which is usually, it depends on the mark, which usually around the low water period, say 1 hour either side of low water. I mean, sometimes I'll fish 2 or 3 hours of the flooding tide. And the other time that I find, if I can't fish at low water, is the hour either side of high water. But it does depend on the mark. And also the time of the day is quite important. What I've done this morning is I've got up virtually at first light. And it's quite good actually, because the period 1 hour before and 1 hour after high water fell at dawn. And rather than fish during the middle of the day, particularly if it's a bright day and it looks like the sun's going to come out later, I always find that it's better to try and fish for them in low light conditions, such as dawn or dusk. Or if you do have to fish during the day, is to fish on very, very cloudy days where there's a lot of cloud cover. That's not to say you can't catch them on very, very bright days. You can, and I do, but the best sessions I find are very, very early morning or late evening that coincide with a certain time of the day, dawn or dusk, that coincides with a certain time of the day. And then obviously other factors come into account, whether the bats are actually here at the time of the year. There's so many things come into account, whether you'll be successful or not. But in general, time of day, time of tide, and low light conditions if you have to fish during the middle of the day. So I originally planned to go off and fish for something else, and then some codling and whiting and maybe squid, and come back at low water and fish for bass. But because I've been successful in this first little session that I planned, I'm not going to bother now. That's it. We'll have this one last drift across this mark and then leave the bass alone. One tip I can give when you're fishing this method, when you're casting a soft plastic or any lure really, soft plastic or plug or metal lure from the kayak, and then in relatively shallow water, and then working it back, either twitching it or jigging it back as I am today, or just retrieving it back, it's exactly the same as if you're working a lure from the shore. You don't stop just because you're getting close to the kayak. I've often had bass they seem to make a last minute decision, same as they do on the shore, and you think they're never going to come that close to the kayak, but they're preoccupied with the following that lure, and they will actually take quite close to the kayak. So it's just to carry on working the lure right up to the kayak, because you can still catch them very, very close. For those of you interested in tackle I've been using this morning for this bass fishing. Got a little 7-foot, this is just a 10 to 40 gram lure rod, and on that I've got a size 4000 lure reel, and that's loaded with 15-pound braid. And as usual, to the end of the braid I've got about 2.5 to 3 feet of 15-pound fluorocarbon, and that's just to act as a little rubbing leader, but also to give a little bit of invisibility between the braid and the lure, and then the small link at the end so I can just clip the soft plastic on. Well, it's another bass, but it's a very, very small one this time. But at least it's another bass. This drift is almost over now, and it had gone much quieter on this drift. The bass are there. I can see the shoals of bass on the finder, but they're coming. They seem to be going off the feed now. So tiny little bass there, but we'll get this one straight back. And away it goes. Well, as I expected, it's gone completely dead now. I can see there's a few fish down there, but they're not taken. And what I've found over the years, this is so common when you go bass fishing. Other people may have found different, but what I find is it's almost like there's a switch. The bass are switched on to feed. They feed, you get a lot of action for a short period of time, and then they just switch off, and then you're just wasting your time. And I'm pretty confident now that if I tried to carry on doing this for the rest of the day until I get to another point in the tide, but the problem with that is that's going to be when it's probably bright and sunny during the middle of the afternoon, so I might be struggling a bit. But yeah, it's those short windows of opportunity and one of the secrets I've found is being able to get out there and fish during those very, very short windows of opportunity. They're normally only little two-hour sessions. Maybe you might get lucky and get 3 hours of action, but usually a couple of hours, and then it's like you're wasting your time, and you might as well pack up and do what I'm going to do now and go and fish for something else. So for those of you that have never tried this before, it's just drifting over fairly shallow rough ground. I've not been fishing in more than about 23 feet of water over a mix of weed and rock, drifting along, casting the lure out and working the different depths, working from the bottom up to the top with a really good soft plastic. And that's also one of the keys. Two things is obviously being there when the fish are there and feeding, and having a good lure that imitates the bait fish that they might be feeding on so well, which this one does. I'm going to head on off now. I'm going to go and drop anchor in some deeper water and see if I can pick up some autumn whiting and some codling.